Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 47. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us here on this Tuesday episode, recording this on Tuesday, coming off the Steelers' victory. Wild in a game that probably was closer than it should have been. Victory for Pittsburgh last night over Chicago, 29-27. Pittsburgh winning that one to move to 5-3 on the season and extend their winning streak to 4. Dave, it was a game that felt comfortable in the first quarter. Actually had one guy on Twitter say, man, up 14-0 here in the first half. It's going to be good to not have a fourth quarter heart attack. And I tweeted back at the guy at the time. It was like 14-0. And I said, hold on, we've been down this road before. And that's exactly what happened. Pittsburgh needing Chris Boswell on a game-winning 40-yard field goal with under a minute left to put the deciding points on the board. So closer than it should have been. But as you always say, the close wins are still wins.
Yeah, you know what they call close losses wins. But they did a good job of almost snatching defeat from the jaws of victory there for sure. What a crazy game. So much to talk about here, and I don't know how far I've been through the TV tape just once since last night. We're recording this at 7:00 Vegas time, 10:00 Pittsburgh time here, and obviously it made for a late night. I think I laid down for about an hour and a half there. That was about it. So what direction would you like to go in? Because there's a lot to talk about, and unfortunately, I think more bad than good.
Yeah, more bad, more weird than good. Before we talk about the game itself, let's just very briefly talk about some of the stuff pregame and some of the injuries as well. I think one notable injury Mike Tomlin had mentioned after the game, after the victory, was Chase Claypool, who had battled, I think, some sort of lower body issue. I don't believe Tomlin specified what it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Said he didn't have a lot of information, that he would be evaluated. We'll see if Tomlin talks about it today during his Tomlin Tuesday press conference. And then from a pregame standpoint, Kevin Rader got elevated, kind of a surprise there, to the 53. He played, caught his first pass. So that was interesting to see. And Kevin Rader getting the roster spot, the hat over running back Anthony McFarland. Pittsburgh had all four backs active and dressing against the Browns last week, but only 3 this week, and McFarland was the odd man out.
Yeah, I found that a curious decision. Didn't see the Raider elevation coming, and definitely didn't see McFarland being the odd man out. I mean, look, I don't know how you can look at that decision, barring McFarland, I don't know, having some sort of setback with the knee or something, but he didn't pop up on the injury report or anything like that. I don't see how you can look at this as anything but a negative when it comes to Anthony McFarland. I mean, you and I talked ahead of the game on the podcast about even thinking that we might see some pony backfield or at least both those guys potentially on the field for a couple snaps because of him being eased back in action. I don't know if this is a signal that McFarland A is either not 100%, or B, he's just not on his screws, and they don't like the way that he's, the way he participated during the week in practice and all like that. So it is a concern. To be interesting to see if Mike Tomlin is asked about that decision during his Tuesday press conference, which will be in a couple hours from now.
Yeah, it will be. I think part of it's just the math of it all. 4 running backs for a team that plays their starter, 85, 90% of the time, makes it tough as is. McFarland doesn't have a lot of special teams value aside from the return game, but with McLeod, at least last night, we'll see about going forward being the return guy. There isn't a lot of role there. Snell, of course, a very key special teamer, and Balaj, I guess they just like him more for versatility, a little bit more so than McFarland. But yeah, not a great sign going forward for him. We'll see what happens when Eric Ebron gets healthy and they have all 3 tight ends active, because Rader we'll revert to the practice squad. But Dave, let's talk about this game again. 29-27 win.
Real quick here. I mean, how many career snaps does even Anthony McFarland have at this point? And here we are. Obviously he had to deal with the injury at the start of the season, but how many snaps does this kid have already? And that's why I say it's a little bit concerning at this point. I'm pulling it up right now. It looks like he had 89 snaps last season on offense, and I think 7 so far this season, right? So not even 100 snaps for him so far, and no special team snaps to boot on top of it. I mean, look at where you drafted this kid and everything, and it is a bit concerning here. So once again, I think hopefully somebody asked Tomlin about that today.
Yeah, just last thought on him. The problem with McFarland, he does not have a lot of backup value in terms of being a good special teamer, in terms of being a good pass protector, or something like that. He's a decent runner. I still believe that, but they have a good runner in Najee Harris, and so that really kind of squeezes McFarland's role and purpose on this team.
Okay, just throw. You go ahead and throw 4th round draft picks at these running backs, and go ahead.
Well, they threw a 1st round draft pick and a 2nd round draft pick at the problems of this year, and those guys coming up in big ways for Pittsburgh in the victory again, 29-27. Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth combining for 3 touchdowns in this game, and so it was up and down performance across the board. It was certainly not as clean, as crisp as it could have been, as it should have been, as we were hoping it would be against the Bears team they were projected to beat, by at least a touchdown, and it felt that way for a while, but just never got into that consistent rhythm and control. This game got close, and then just a lot of miscues, some Steelers beating Steelers. Of course, the Bears certainly beat themselves in a lot of ways as well, but this one just not a crisp game across the board.
Yeah, look, and you mentioned 1st, 2nd round draft pick. The last couple of games, kudos to the decisions there, right? Because without those 2 guys, where is this team the last 2 games? Obviously, Freiermuth, 3 touchdowns I think in the last two games now. I think about the same for Najee. What does Najee have in the last 2 games? 2 or 3 touchdowns?
I think it's 3 and 1 yesterday, and did he have 2 against the Browns, or do you have just the 1?
Well, I know he had the leaping one. Then didn't he have the catch as well there? I think as well too. But
that came against Seattle. Actually,
okay, it was Seattle. Okay, so just 1 against Cleveland there. But successful run rate wasn't as great for Najee in that game yesterday, but there was a lot, some key runs in short yardage type situations that obviously counted successful runs, and they were big at the time. So once again, not the type thing where you look at his yards per carry and are overly impressed, but when you look at, I think as the team, they were just one run short of being 50% for runs for the team. I didn't look at Najee's runs specifically to see the success rate. I know for a while it was hovering right around 50% there, and perhaps maybe that's where he ended up overall there. But without Najee and without Pat Freiermuth in that game, and Freiermuth obviously had a big catch on that final drive as well too, kind of a little bit of a low throw that put the Steelers, I think, in field goal range on top of it. So without those 2, you kind of wonder where this team would be the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the way I divvy up why the Steelers won in one column, and then why the Steelers had a really close game and needed a game-winning drive in the other column. To the former point about why they won, ultimately they were 3-3 in the red zone. I think that was the big number to look at overall in terms of situational football. They were not perfect overall, but they were good in 3rd down defense, and they were perfect in the red zone. Chicago went 2 of 4, and so to me that was the difference in this one. And then in terms of why this game was really close was just some of those self-inflicted wounds. And I think Chicago had more of them, and that's ultimately why Pittsburgh won. But having those turnovers, that McLeod fumble obviously was incredibly costly. Scooped and scored for a touchdown. His job certainly could be in jeopardy right now. But, I think the number one reason why Pittsburgh won this game was they capitalized inside the 20. Chicago did not do that as efficiently enough, and that was just enough to be the difference.
I think my final key was Steelers can't beat the Steelers in this game, and they tried, but the Bears wanted to beat the Bears more, in this one overall. And look, we talked about how this team has to score more points coming out of that game against the Browns. Well, they scored 29. And if you would have told me way ahead of this thing that the Steelers scored 29 points against the Bears, I say, wow, were the people filing out of the stadium at what point in the game happy? At no point would I have thought the game would have been as close as it would have been. So, yeah, kudos to them scoring more points, but boy, they sure make this thing difficult. It seems like on a week-to-week basis, and it seems to have been that seems to be the case for several weeks now. And the fact that you have to rely on Ben Roethlisberger to drive them down the field, for a game-winning field goal is just. I mean, it's a bit embarrassing overall, I think. And look, I get it. Let's celebrate. I mean, the team is 5-3, 4 wins in a row after starting the season 1-3. But also, let's not kid ourselves here. This is a highly dysfunctional team at this point, and it feels kind of smoke and mirrors propped up at this point. But we did say, look, whatever happens, this team's got to win these next 3 games, meaning Cleveland, Chicago, and then the Lions. They've won 2 of them. So if you win this next one, then at that point, all you have to go is 4-4 the rest of the way to get into playoffs. But man, it's a good thing they don't award style points for these things.
Yes. Yeah, I think the point that you made and the point that I'm sure most Steelers fans recognize, when Pittsburgh cannot have a consistent, successful run game, cannot stay on script the way they could against Cleveland, the way they could against Seattle and Denver, this offense really struggles. It really sputters, and I think the word you used was dysfunctional, I believe, or clunky actually was the word that you had used. And so you saw that last night where I thought Harris ran well and ran hard overall, but Pittsburgh did not get the push up front that they had been. Kendrick Green struggled, especially in short yardage situations. And so this team is just so reliant on needing that consistently good run game, and they're still figuring out that run game as well. And there's still going to be ebbs and flows with the group. I'm not going to be incredibly discouraged by their performance last night because I know these things will, there'll be peaks and valleys, but overall I am seeing progress. But certainly last night, not good enough in the run game despite the success rate. And you kind of get that overall feeling the offense can't get that rhythm if the run game really isn't kind of, on its P's and Q's.
And once again, thank God for success rates, because if you look at overall 22 carries for 62 yards for Najee Harris, I mean, that's not great, Bob, but I mean, there were the successful runs in there, the short yardage ones, and those count. And that's why you can't look at this all the time. But here's the thing that he did have the 13-yard. Well, I believe the touchdown run was 13 yards, and that was 10 yards. I'm sorry, but his longest run of the game was 13 yards in total. We've talked about, or going back to, Najee is not the guy that's going to register a lot of 20-yard runs for you, right? I mean, we knew that, but I mean, if he can register the 10-yard runs on a consistent basis, that's fine. But even those right now seem to be coming few and far between. He is hitting the success rate, which is key in this, and that's really, quite honestly, that's been the key to all of this during this 4-game winning streak, is at least he's hitting the successful run rate. Because I guess if you look at it overall from what he's gained versus yards per carry, once again, it's not great. When it comes to that thing. And if the Steelers, if this team gets in a situation at any point moving forward into this season where a team is able just to stymie that run, the run success rate for them, this team's going to be in trouble, because Ben Roethlisberger still cannot push the football down the field with any regularity whatsoever. He did hit the deep one. Kudos to him, to Chase Claypool. It was good to see Chase make a combative, explosive play catch. And you're thinking, okay, all right, they're coming out, get an explosive play in here. But really, there wasn't much more after that. They had to rely on another catch short, run long for Deontay Johnson later in the game, and even the deep pass to James Washington, I think, for 42 yards. I had to go back and look at that. Was Ben hit on that, or just could he just not shot put it out there far enough?
Yeah, I don't think he was hit. It was pressure late, but I don't think he was hit. But obviously, he led the game-winning drive, and you have to give him a ton of credit for that. But I know, Dave, we usually break this up into offense and defense, but I kind of just want to go through this game chronologically, if that's good with you, just to kind of, I think it's the best way for me to rethink and reframe this game right now. So Chicago gets the opening possession there. Pittsburgh goes 3-and-out. Defense does a nice job overall. Pittsburgh gets really good starting field position on their 41, and for the third time this season, they have an opening drive touchdown. They only did that one time through 2019 and 2020 combined, and they have 3 such opening drive scores this season. So a much better script. Najee Harris with a good 10-yard run, getting the second level free and a stiff arm, and once that guy gets a head of steam in space, it is certainly hard to bring him down. So that was a really good start. As you said, the jump ball to Claypool on third down. That was a great play by him. I think an end around to reject play to James Washington for 12 yards, and then Harris capping things off with a touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I thought the opening script was fine, especially on that first drive. Once again, highlighted by the Chase Claypool combated catch. The last couple of weeks there's been a lot of talk. The coach has asked about Chase Claypool and the explosive plays, and Chase obviously asked about that during his interview there, and they saying that they need to see that kind of stuff out of him. Well, they got it. It was obviously a key play in that drive. In addition to the handoff to James Washington, they got some good yards, and then followed up with a very nice, block by I think even the whole left side of that line I thought blocked nice on that Kendrick Green or on the Najee Harris touchdown run, and Derek Watt included in that, just pretty much a wide open lane, and then Najee did the rest there. But and then you turn around, as you mentioned, the defense really the first 4 or 5 possessions of the game stymied that Bears offense in total. In fact, the Bears ran 3, 5, 3, and 4 offensive plays in total in their first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possessions there, and then you get the big play. I don't know how Cameron Hayward intercepted that ball. I'm not even sure if he really knows. He tried to explain it during his press conference there. But another thing that we haven't seen is this defense delivering short yardage to the offense, and they did in this situation, and the Steelers offense capitalized on that with a touchdown. And on that touchdown, good job by the offensive line, protection, and Ben, bought Ben the extra time, and Pat Freiermuth got free for his first of 2 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah, with Hayward, we talked about it earlier in the season. It had been a little bit quieter the last couple of weeks, but his ability to impact the pass game without always getting pressure on the quarterback, being able to read the quarterback and read the drop of his shoulder, and just be a big volleyball player at the net. And he did that so well. Had 5 pass deflections, I think, in his first, 5 games it was this season. And then to deflect that one and then, somehow pick that one off. Kudos to him. They call him Clamps Hayward. He is shutting. It's Hayward Island out there or something, man. He's got interception back-to-back years. And a reader reminded me of this today. I should have put this in Stats of the Weird. Both of his picks have come on Monday Night Football. Yep. So against the Giants and against the Bears last night. So the lights come on and Hayward turns into Jalen Ramsey or something. Yeah,
look, once again, it was really impressive because I still not fully sure how he's able to trap that thing there. But, it was a big play in the game, and we've talked about not getting enough turnovers and not getting enough short fields and how this offense really needs it, and they provided it. And the most important thing, I think, on top of it was the Steelers offense converted that into a touchdown. And, right. And you said you had someone tweet at you. Yeah, I was feeling a lot better there at 14-0, especially the way the Steelers defense was playing during those first 4 or 5 series there overall, and it just felt like this thing could turn into like that game against Carolina a few years ago. Was that a Monday night game or a Thursday night? Thursday night game. Yeah. It felt like it could start going that way, but not so fast, my friends.
Yeah, obviously you're feeling better up being 14-0, but I felt like Pittsburgh needed that one more score to kind of really put the game away, to put them up 3 touchdowns or whatever the case is, even 17-0, that really kind of got the Bears out of their script because they knew that Chicago had to run the football effectively, and you go up 3 scores, you might really take them out of that going into the second half. But I want to talk about the Freiermuth first touchdown here just briefly before we talk about everything that happened after that, and just playing really good bend ball, finding the soft spot, Ben directing traffic, and just getting open. And so Freiermuth just having that feel, and just playing well in a scramble drill. Credit to the offensive line for really protecting that one up well and giving Ben lots of time on that play. But that was just a really good pitch and catch.
Yeah, it was, and once again, the offensive line. What was that? The one where the Bears had three players in one gap rushing in that situation, so they obviously made it a little bit easier on the Steelers' offensive line. But he did need a little bit of time there, and if you buy, it's good to see Ben be able to make kind of one of those Ben plays, if you will. And it wasn't so much on his end as much as it was him having the time to wait and then not force the football, and then, as you said, get Freiermuth to come free in the back of the end zone and found him with relative ease at that point.
Rest of the first half was mostly a bunch of punts and a couple of, unfortunately, JV ones from Presley Harvin III. They didn't especially cost Pittsburgh, I don't believe, but certainly not his best performance of the night either. Got a little bit better at the end of the game, but maybe it was an issue trying to kick really specifically away from the dangerous return man Jakeem Grant. But Harvin certainly has to be better. And then the Bears go down the field at the end of the first half with a 30-yard field goal by Cairo Santos. And so it was 14-3 at halftime. And you're feeling, Pittsburgh gets the ball at half. You're up 14-3, not feeling perfect, but obviously Pittsburgh in a very good position to control that game.
Yeah, look, for them to, the Bears did a good job of moving the football late in that first half there, and for the Steelers defense to at least get the stop there and hold them to a field goal. I was still feeling pretty good at that point because you're going in 14-3, you get the ball first in the second half there, and you're thinking, man, if they could go down and put this thing in at that point, you're feeling even better, then. So, even at that point, coming off of a 12-play, 51-yard drive for the Bears at that point, at halftime, I think you're still feeling pretty good overall. I think some of my notes at that point was what Watt had. How many sacks did Watt have at that point? 2? Did he have 2?
Sounds about right.
All right. Obviously he had a good first half there. They did a good job, I think, overall at kind of getting pressure. Got off the field for the most part. Of all the first half possessions, only one of them was 5 or more plays in that situation. You had a decent run success rate, I think, at that point overall, and I think at that point, did the Steelers only have like 2 penalties versus, I think how many did the Bears have at that point?
They had a lot, and they probably had like 8.
Yeah, about 8 maybe at that time there. So once again, there was the Harvin JV punts that you hit on. That was a negative in that situation there. But once again, for the most part, I think you're feeling pretty good as a Steelers fan going in at halftime.
Yeah, and even by almost the end of the third quarter, you still were feeling good. The Bears did get a field goal after Pittsburgh punted away on their opening possession of the second half, but Pittsburgh responds with a Freiermuth second touchdown, which was of the combat catch variety. So this was not a scramble drill, but they isolate Freiermuth. He kind of runs a little, I don't know if you call it a wheel route, but a little out and up, kind of gets wide first and then extends upfield. And as you mentioned, this is a great call by you to pick on the cornerback, Kendall Builder, and obviously Freiermuth has a ton of size on him and just makes another difficult catch to grab the ball basically off of his shoulder and make the play. And so 2 touchdowns for Freiermuth and just of different varieties, both in the red zone, both on third down. But one was a scramble drill, another was a combat catch. And so winning in different ways and finishing the play in different ways. And again, on third down, big situations, they turn to 88, and he's making those plays.
Yeah, and wasn't Vilder the one on Claypool early on that combated catch as well too?
Yep.
So I felt like that was a guy that the Steelers might be able to pick on in this game, and they did have success when they went after him.
Yeah, and then so Freiermuth, what more can you say about his performance overall on a night where Heath Miller was there no less, and they got to meet and talk, and there was video of that, and Freiermuth said after the game that Miller just told him to keep playing their game, that he's killing it, just take care of your body and all that stuff. So, I know the Miller comparison was always pretty lofty when he first got drafted, but the more this guy plays and the more that you watch him, not that he's Heath yet, but man, he's sure trending in that kind of direction.
And is blocking out on the edge specifically, and he talked a little bit about that during his post-game press conference. This is the same Pat Freiermuth that we go back to, the Week 1 game where he carried the Bills defensive back out into the parking lot, I think, there, and helped him find his keys and all like that. But and that's what you expect, and especially when it's a defensive back, you expect Pat Freiermuth to not should not only win those battles against defensive backs, but win them convincingly. And I thought he did. And he'll get stronger, I think. And he even, I think, commented at some of those defensive ends that he's having to go against in the National Football League are definitely not the type that he went against in college consistently as well too. So the hope is that he'll get better in that area. I haven't looked at it close enough, but I thought based on what he did in the first 7 games versus, I thought there was some improvement kind of in the base end blocking department. It felt like it overall from last night. We'll see what the All 22 says on that. Back to Vilder real quick. Targeted 5 times in this game, 4 receptions, 62 yards, and a touchdown allowed by him in that game overall. So that was a huge guy that they went after there. They also went after Jalen Johnson, though, too, I think. Jalen gave up 5 receptions for 45 yards in this game. So they didn't, if the Bears would have got better play out of their cornerbacks in this game, would have been a bit of a difference, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a pair of second-year guys Pittsburgh went after, and the Bears missing safety Eddie Jackson. So I'm sure his presence or lack thereof was felt in this one. So at this point, extra point that was missed by Boz, unfortunately. So it's 20-6 near the end of the third quarter. You're still thinking, man. I mean, the stat came up. Pittsburgh's 2-14, 0-2, leading 14 points, fourth quarter, something like that. But 2 plays into the fourth quarter, Bears receiver Darnell Mooney on a wildcat play goes left end. It was a really good bash run there by the Bears. The guards back away from where the guards were pulling, and Pittsburgh was completely fooled by, everybody was fooled, Devin Bush in particular. But, TJ Watt after the game said that they really weren't fully prepared and were surprised by the amount of design runs by Justin Fields. He ran the ball quite a bit in this game, and the Wildcat as well. And to the latter point about the Wildcat, some of that's probably because the Bears got back David Montgomery, and that was a surprise and a later week decision by Chicago. But definitely some wrinkles in the run game that Pittsburgh was not fully equipped to handle.
Well, maybe they should listen to the Terrible Podcast and read Dave Bryan's 5 keys to the game before every game there. I'm not shocked one bit. And Mike Tomlin has talked so much about quarterback mobility these last couple of weeks. And then, they only had 2 design runs in that game against the 49ers the previous week. With the way that guy was able to move, outside the pocket, why wouldn't you design a few more design runs with him? So I wrote that up. In fact, as one of the top things, one of my top 5 keys there was fielding Fields in this game at Heinz Field, because first and foremost, as you had mentioned, you got a gap contained, you got rush lane integrity when you're rushing him, because you can't let this kid get loose just on the scrambles alone. Overall, I don't think they did a very good job of that throughout the game there. And then not only that, the design run aspect, once the Bears started to kind of use that a little bit more, I thought they got a little bit of traction on that as well too. So I'm a bit shocked to hear TJ Watt come out and say that they basically fooled us with some of these design runs. Yeah, I get, maybe the Wildcat aspect, but that wasn't the only way that the Bears killed the Steelers in that aspect of it there. So shame on them, because especially once again, Mike Tomlin talked about quarterback mobility and all like that. I definitely expected to see some more design runs for Fields, and they did it, and they had some success doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to point out the play before the Mooney touchdown, the 28-yard completion by Jimmy Graham, who I forgot was even still playing for Chicago. I knew he was on the roster. I didn't think he was really having a role or healthy or something. Terrell Edmonds just getting cooked down the seam by a 34-year-old Jimmy Graham who's on his last leg. I mean, Edmonds is a good athlete, but in coverage he does not play anywhere close to the timing that he has, the physical traits that he has. And so I know, Edmonds struggling in coverage is not a new or earth-shattering kind of thought, but really just this year Edmonds has been beat by like a 32-year-old Randall Cobb and a 34-year-old Jimmy Graham, and that just should not happen for a guy as physically gifted as Edmonds is.
Right, and I'll have to go back and look a little bit closer at that as well too. But and are we in the third quarter yet on this, or what?
Early fourth quarter. So the Bears get the touchdown from Mooney.
All right. Well, I want to back up a little bit to the to the red zone, to the penalty that nullified the touchdown to Jimmy Graham.
Okay,
The block,
that was
the block on Watt
on the right guard.
Supposedly outside of the tight end box.
Yeah, where did that come? Was that
Wasn't that in the third? Wasn't that in the third quarter there?
Yeah, I think you're right. I can't find exactly. Yeah, it was. It was 9:19 in the third quarter, second and goal from the 1, and Chicago was forced to settle for a field goal instead. So yeah, I mean, obviously an elephant in the room, and certainly we're going to touch on that, were the refs, and the refs were just bad in this game. The majority of the calls went against Chicago, but it worked both ways. I mean, the right tackle for Chicago, that rookie Borum, was false starting on every single play, and they never called it or rarely called it, and so the refs I thought were just a mess, top to bottom.
I mean, we can admit that the Bears got jobbed there, right? On that particular touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, it's close to being outside the tight end box, but to me, he's inside of it. I think there's contact there, but I think it was legal contact. I mean, it's really ticky-tack to say, because the real spirit of that play is like on a screenplay, 10 yards downfield, they don't want guys going low and those kinds of things, offense or defense at this point. But in that situation, I mean, to me, that should not have been called.
Yeah, and Tony Corrente was asked about a couple things by the pool reporter after the game, and that was the second, second of the two things he was asked about. That he said from his vantage point there was contact, and from his vantage point basically it was outside the box there. So obviously it's a judgment call in that situation, but when they showed replays of that and the overhead and all like that, I think the Steelers got away with one right there.
Yeah, never good when the refs are being talked about in the pool report and the media stuff post game there. But so the Chicago, they inched their way back, and then Pittsburgh responds with a drive of their own. Chris Boswell, the 54-yard field goal that he made, man, he was just fantastic in this game, the extra point aside. So at that point, you still have a lead. It's 23-13, I believe, at that point there, mid fourth quarter. There's 6.5 minutes left. The Steelers forced another punt there after TJ Watt, I think his third sack of the game. And so you feel like you're just going to run out the clock and basically, walk home to victory. But as you said, top of the show, not so fast, my friend Ray McLeod with the fumble there, trying to spin away, trying to gain an extra yard. I'm not sure what he was trying to accomplish there, and it's scooped and scored by DeAndre Houston Carson. So not only did you have the fumble, which is bad enough, but you had an immediate score off of it. No chance for the defense to defend blades of grass. And so McLeod had the fumble last week that luckily Pittsburgh recovered by Justin Lane, and then certainly had the extremely costly one here that really turned the tide in this game.
You know where I come in on this, right?
I'm waiting for the Ray ball issues.
I mean, I said be careful. This kid's going to, in fact, last week, this kid's going to end up costing him something here. Where's it? Look, I get his return averages up there and all like that when he does return one and all, but where's the overall value, I think, in this kid right now? And make no mistake about it, he is in Pittsburgh because he had ball issues to start with. That's why he found himself on the outs with, who was it? The Panthers, I think, there.
Buffalo.
And Buffalo, too. He's a good returner when he doesn't turn over the football.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's his value. But
you can't have that stuff,
Sure.
And Mike Tomlin obviously wasn't happy with that stuff after the game as well too. I mean, I don't know if he gets cut or replaced at this point. It might be too early for that. But I tell you what, he's using up a couple of those 9 lives.
Yeah, at best he's on very thin ice, and they do have some in-house options. McFarland could be one in the kick return game potentially, but you look at Steven Sims, who certainly has a very similar resume and profile. You've talked him up quite a bit since they signed him. Former Washington football team player. Ike Hilliard, the receivers coach, knows him pretty well. So if they wanted to make a change there, which is certainly possible, I think Sims would be a very logical and fairly smooth replacement because he can do kicks and punts, I believe.
Yeah, I would go that way more so than I would McFarland. McFarland's just too green in that area. And I'm not saying they should do that just yet, but, I mean, he is a muff or a bad decision or a fumble away from finding himself out of Pittsburgh, period, with Ray. I mean, I mean, that was disastrous. I mean, that's a huge play in that game, and I mean, had they went on to lose this game, there was no way around pointing to that as a huge turning point in this contest. And once again, it's not like this is new. He has had ball security issues throughout this thing, and they've kind of surfaced as of late here, and he better get straightened out, because one more strike like that, he's going to be gone.
For sure, and he could be gone now. If he does have a life left, it's just one at best. And if they do make a change, it wouldn't shock me. I agree. I think they do stick with him. I'm gonna just guess here, but it would not surprise me if they made a change this week.
What does Anthony Miller have any return value? I'm trying to remember.
I don't believe so. Certainly not kicks and punts. Maybe one or the other.
I mean, and what kind of value right now does Cody? I guess Cody White gives you some special teams value. I would seriously consider bringing up Sims and Anthony Miller from the practice squad right now and turning loose McDonald and White. But that would be a huge overreaction at this point. But I don't think we're far from that being a reasonable suggestion. I will tell you that.
Yeah, I know White was on kick coverage last night. He doesn't work in the return game, but does some of the coverage stuff. It looks like Miller actually does have a little bit in punts and kicks. 5 punt returns in 2020 with Chicago, 8 career kick returns. Nothing special in terms of the stats, but so there's some minor value there. But I think if they wanted to put a new return guy in, I think Steven Sims makes sense as the option, and also filling McLeod's role in terms of being kind of the slot gadget-y type of receiver. I think he would do that. I mean, they're very similar type players.
And I think Sims gives you a lot more value out of the slot too. Not suggesting that he'd get a lot of time there. I kind of wince a little bit any time that McFarland's on the field anyway. I mean, not McFarland, but McLeod's on the field anyway there. So on thin ice.
Snaps.
Huh?
Yeah. He played 26 snaps last night, McLeod did. I mean, because of some of the injuries to Claypool. So, I mean, Sims could play, hypothetically, a fair amount of snaps like the way McLeod is.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't think they make the change right now, but you definitely have to have that in the back of your mind.
I did accidentally skip what happened, the pause, the special teams play before that, after the Boss 54-yard field goal. James Pierre forcing that fumble out on Jakeem Grant. I thought kick coverage was excellent in this game. Grant's a very dangerous return man, one of the better ones in football, and they did a good job pinning him deep. And then on the one good return Grant appeared to be having, Pierre knocking that football out in the Chris Boswell's hands. He gets piled on, so that was kind of a crazy moment after the concussion he had against the Browns. So unfortunately, though, for Pittsburgh, off that turnover, despite starting having field position at the Bears 42 to start that drive, they did not come away with points there because of I think a sack that Ben took from Roquan Smith, who we mentioned about a potential blitzer in this game. So it was good to get the turnover, but unfortunately Pittsburgh could not put points on the board because of it.
Yeah, and I believe that happened right after Renegade too, didn't it? And you're thinking, here they go. Get a turnover here, pound this one, convert this into some putos there, and start the celebration. But no, they couldn't do anything with it. Was that the one that Trey Turner? There was a miscommunication. He just ran right past inside Trey Turner. Was that the sack?
I believe so. Yeah, I'll have to go back and check, but I believe so. That was the one. So. Chicago making it close there off the Houston Carson scoop and score. Pride of William and Mary, Tomlin's alma mater, for a little fun fact there for you. But Pittsburgh does respond. They march down the field yet again late in the fourth quarter. Chris Boswell, another 50-yard field goal, 52 yards out to make it. What was it, 26-20 at that point? So
that guy's eating nails lately, isn't he? I mean, yeah, you can point to the missed extra point and all. We'll have to go look at the operation of that. I haven't had time to look at maybe why he missed that extra point though. But man, Mike Tomlin has no fear sending him out there past 50 yards now from open in, close in, whatever. And that guy just hammer legging it right now.
Yeah, let me give you the stat on Boz. His career 50-plus yard field goals at Heinz Field. He's 12 of 15, 80%. All other kickers at Heinz Field 50-plus are 10 of 28, 35.7%. They're 35.7. Boz is 80%. And so that's an incredible difference in Boz. I mean, Heinz Field used to be the place where 50 plus was just a pipe dream. No one attempted it. No one did it. And Boz is just hitting them like it's nothing now.
Look, this, and I've said it several times in the past, when he went through that slump, I always worry about those kickers are different animals, man. And I kind of wonder sometimes when you see him go into the tank like Boswell did a couple of years ago, I worry about him. But not only has he bounced back from that, he's even a better kicker now, I think, than he was before he went into kind of that slump a couple years ago. And once again, he just, you send him out there, you used to have your fingers crossed anytime you send one out there, 49, 50, 51 yards and all. Now he's just hammering these things home from all over past 48 yards.
Yep, for sure. So Pittsburgh's up 26-20 with 2:52 left. Just need one more defensive stop, and the game is over. Just can't allow a touchdown, and that's what happened. As Justin Fields, credit to him, I thought he played well overall in this game. Came up clutch there, and two big plays, 39 yards to Allen Robinson, 3rd and 2, and then the following play, 16-yard touchdown to Darnell Mooney, picking on Arthur Millette on both plays. Millette is physical. He's a good downhill guy, but in coverage, he certainly can be exposed. And on the touchdown to Mooney, again, Fields being able to break, contain, roll to his left to make a really good throw on the move. And so those were the two big plays attacking Arthur Millette.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really go back. Anything stick out on those big plays?
Well, what stuck out to me was I don't know the answer to this. What personnel grouping was Pittsburgh in? Were they not in their dime defense? Because Millette does not normally play in dime whenever everyone's healthy, which they were last night. Usually he gets subbed out and they put in Cam Sutton in the slot, James Pierre on the outside. So the very fact that Millette was in the game, were they in nickel? I'm guessing they would have been, or they were changing up their dime personnel. So just Millette being out there in general is a little unusual.
Okay. One of the several things we had to go back and check on the tape about. Once again, I haven't had time to dive that terribly deep into it, and that's some of those big plays later. I definitely want to look at.
Yeah, and obviously him in coverage. He's average to below average. He's better downhill, and when he's asked to cover those guys, tough matchups. Robinson, a good receiver. Mooney, a good receiver, really fast one. That's tough for him to be in. But again, the X factor for me in this game was the quarterback containment of Justin Fields, and they did not contain that well enough. And Fields broke to his left there and bought time and made a really good throw, moving to his left, no less, on the run. And so you just can't let Fields do those things with his legs, not as a runner, but to buy time and make a play.
Was that kind of a grow-up game for him, do you think?
I think so. He made some great throws over the middle of the field. I thought he was excellent in this one. To do that on the road in a really loud crowd environment, Heinz Field seemed like it was rocking last night. We'll see what goes forward for him. Again, quarterbacks ebb and flow. You're good one week, you suck the next. That's just kind of the way it goes sometimes. But I thought he was excellent last night.
My God, I looked at the next gen stats on him, on his intended air yards and his completed air yards. And look, I did realize that he did hit on a couple of big throws on that game, but it really didn't register, I don't think, until I saw the stats on this, man. I thought it was a misprint at that. Justin Fields, his intended air yard average intended air yards per attempt was 15.7 yards past the line of scrimmage. 15.7. His completed air yard distance average 14.1 past the line of scrimmage. And how many attempts did he have in this game?
I can check. He had 29.
For 29 attempts to have an intended and a completed air yard distance, I don't know what that speaks more to, the Steelers defense or Justin Fields' ability or both in that situation. When's the last time I can't remember that many attempts, quarterback having not, you might see the intended air yards up there, but you won't see maybe the completed air yards being right there with it.
Yeah, usually there's a big difference. Like a dude's just chucking deep balls and they just don't complete, and you get a big disparity there, right?
Right, and his time to throw average was 2.98 seconds, so almost 3 seconds on average time to throw on those dropbacks on top of it. So look, if they can get him some offensive line help and coach him up a little bit more and get him to read defense maybe a little bit better, maybe they have something there because he can sling it too. I think we kind of saw that in that game on top of it. So. I did feel like he was completed some things down the field, but I don't know if I felt like it was going to be like that. I looked at those numbers on Next Gen Stats. I thought, my God.
Yeah, really good performance by him last night for sure to almost lead the comeback, but almost is the key word here. So Pittsburgh down 27-26, 146 left, ball their own 25, and Ben, in classic Ben fashion, his 50th career.
You better back up a little bit there. You're missing a big important series and play in there, penalty.
Oh, we should mention, yeah. Well, I was going to bring the refs in at the end there, just kind of talk about them. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Cassius Marsh play for sure, because that was obviously one of the big storylines of this one. But just to talk about the game-winning drive there for Ben, I don't know if Ben made any one particular spectacular throw or play, but he was efficient. He was the leader. I mean, he was obviously the guy running the show. And leads him down the field, and the slant to Deontay Johnson, hit that big slant to Johnson last week against the Browns for 50 yards, hit a slant to 22 yards here, and Freiermuth making a really good diving play for 13 on a 1st and 15 play, and then Boz splitting the uprights on a kick from 40 yards out to give the Steelers the win. Although there was some time left, so we'll talk about what happened afterwards. But Ben, 50th career game-winning drive, ties Tom Brady for, I believe, third all-time, I want to say. And so just a classic Ben drive there.
Look, that first, he didn't have, once again, he didn't, the deep throw to Claypool I thought was good. The combated catch down there early was fine. That seemed to be kind of his, I guess the second touchdown pass to Freiermuth was one where he knew his guy was probably going to be the only one to come down with that. But the even though it was low, that 1st and 15 from the Bears 37 with 59 seconds left that came on the heels of the Dan Moore false start. Freiermuth went down to go get it, but I mean, if you don't get that throw and right there in that situation. It makes you kind of wonder maybe how the rest of that plays out. Now, it was a 1st and 15 situation, so you did have some time still on the clock there and to work with. But that ended up being a huge play in that game, I think.
Yeah, no, I think for sure off the Dan Moore false start. So I don't think Ben played great up to that point. Go ahead.
What was he thinking with the spike after that play to Freiermuth?
Yeah, well, because the Bears were running a player off, and so Ben had gotten them on that earlier in the game with 12 men on the field with a quick play. And so I think Ben thought because they were running a guy off that meant they had 12 out there. But apparently the Bears only had 11 out there, so they were running their 11th guy off the field playing with 10. And so it was confusion from the Bears side, which led to a misinterpretation from Ben's side, which is why he spiked the football.
Okay, and I understand you haven't had a lot of time to go back and look at that again, but I think your mind will change after you go back and look, even the TV copy on that. I think Ben saw the guy running off after the fact. I think he had Spike in his mind the whole time there. Correct? We'll revisit this, but go back and look at it there because I did this morning thinking, what the heck was he doing there? And he points to the player running off almost as an afterthought, like I got him. Whereas I think his whole intention the whole time was I just got to get up here and spike the football, which in that particular instance is 2nd and 2. The clock is still your friend at that time. Run it down. There's no reason to spike the football in that situation. And you want to entice the Bears you want to run that clock down. You want to entice the Bears to use. I think they had one timeout left at the time.
Right.
There in that situation. So I'm not. If indeed he was not trying to catch them running a player off, and I don't think he was, that whole process right there was bad.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it back, so I was just kind of going off what I saw live because obviously Ben did get them earlier in the game, so that was just kind of what I was assuming, but maybe that's not the case. The fact that there was time even left for Chicago in that situation I mean, there should have been no time left. There should have been just a game-winning field goal. Either he's going to make it, they're going to win, or he's going to miss it, and they're going to lose. So the fact that there was any sort of time left for Chicago was interesting. But then, I mean, the Bears have their own issues. They went offsides on back-to-back plays on that drive. I don't know what they're doing. Matt Nagy, for whatever reason, tries to ice Basel before that 40-yarder. I think he could have used that timeout that he had whenever Chicago got the ball back. So I don't know why Nagy's using that timeout there. I mean, it was a mess the whole way around on that drive. It was just really ugly.
Yeah, it's like each one of them were wanting to tell you, hold my beer, you know.
Yeah, you got Ben running on a read option for some reason, diving forward on 3rd and 2. Just crazy.
It really was. It was, man, if you like good football games, you didn't like the final half of the fourth quarter more, specifically in this one. It was just bad and just not just to play on the field, but I think the officiating as well too. Okay, back to the officiating.
Yeah, well, I was going to just recap the last drive here for Chicago because it got interesting too. It got closer than I thought it was, and they tried a 65-yard field goal. Santos did, and I got fooled as well because the broadcast looked like it was doinked, and I was like, "How in the world did he doink a 65-yarder at Heinz Field?" That was not the case. It was 8 yards short, but I mean, this thing was – you didn't know what the outcome was going to be until literally the last play of the game, which is such a typical Steelers thing to do.
And what happens on that play before the final field goal attempt if T.J. Watt does not bat that pass down?
Well, were they going to hit the sideline in time? I thought they were going to have time to get to the sideline, but maybe I'm wrong because the broadcast seemed to think the game would have been over if that pass was not batted down by Watt.
Okay, maybe that's something else that I need to go look back. I'm thinking to myself, man, if they complete that, can he get out of bounds in enough time, and is there enough yardage there? Does that decide the football game?
Yeah, the home clock operator might have had an influence on that one for Pittsburgh.
There was 5 seconds left when that play was snapped. So I'll have to go back and look and see if they would have had enough time to complete that and get out of bounds or whatnot.
My guess is they would have had a second or two left, but I guess we'll never know. Were you surprised they tried the field goal instead of? I thought they were going to do a Hail Mary because the Fields' arm. I mean, obviously it was a very makeable throw for him, but were you surprised with the field goal?
I was from that distance.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I know. Maybe I don't know what the odds are, but 65-yarder at Heinz Field, 65-yarder anywhere is incredible. 65-yarder at Heinz Field is really, really pushing it. So that was surprising. But anyway, let's get to the officials in this game because they were a mess, and certainly the biggest question mark of this game came. Let me get the situation for you because I don't want to be completely wrong about this. Was the Cassius Marsh sack on? Help me out here, Dave. When did this happen?
There's 3-something, I think, left in the fourth quarter, if memory serves me.
Yeah. Okay. 3:40, 3rd and 8. Chicago 47-yard line, and the Steelers they were up 23-20 in this situation. And so Marsh, the ex-Steeler, elevated on Monday, signed to the Bears practice squad last week, sacks Ben. He does a little spinning kick and then kind of turns to the Steelers sideline. Presumably
and walks that way.
Yeah, and walks that way. Presumably in kind of the, this is what you get for cutting me,
mean
showing
mugging
him up kind of thing. Yeah, mugging kind of thing. And they throw a flag on him and call that for taunting. And the Pittsburgh Steelers drive gets extended instead of a punt. They get the Boswell 52-yard field goal out of it, which proved to be very crucial ultimately in this game. So I know taunting's been a point of emphasis. It's going to be the phrase you're going to hear a lot this week from the NFL this season, and we've seen a lot of questionable calls there. So I know to the letter of the ruling, arguably the right call, but man, I just don't feel good about that one. I just think the ref should have not thrown the flag there.
I don't feel good about it overall of it playing out the way it did. I will say this though, and I've had you know me, I like to take a deep breath on these kind of things and watch them and not just jump feet first into this. Okay, he gets a sack, he does a spinning round kick, which was quite impressive if you ask me. If he at that point wants to stare at the sideline but do so while walking back to his own sideline, I have no issue with it. But he's walking toward the Steelers sideline and mean mugging. Okay? That is what the NFL wants to get away from. I still think, yeah, do I think it's ticky-tack? But if he was walking in that direction, kind of mean mugging, I mean, it was a taunting pose, was it not?
Well, I guess, but did anyone even notice?
I don't. I mean, whether you notice or not, I mean, so the cameras notice. I mean, it's right there in the center. It sends the wrong message there. He is purposefully interacting, walking that way, and taunting the Steelers sideline. Yeah, you guys cut me. Not that you can read into that. That cannot play into your decision to throw the flag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. He got cut by the Steelers. He's a former.
I'm guessing
Steeler.
Tony Parenti did not know that information.
And evidently ESPN didn't know too much about it, much of anybody's history in that game. Anyway, but. I think it sucks. I think it's a hell of a way to get a penalty called on you. But looking back on it, and the point of emphasis and all like that, and him walking towards the Steelers sideline, once again, if he wants to turn around and glare while he's walking maybe backwards to his own.
Is that also not taunting if you're glaring and you're like kind of mean mugging as you're staring and walking away?
I think the difference there is the motion, forward or backwards. I really, really do. I think if he's walking backwards, staring at the Steelers sideline, he doesn't get called. But with him going the opposite direction doing that, I think that's where the difference is, personally.
I get that, but isn't that all just silly? Isn't this all just?
Sure,
I know it's the rule, but the rule itself is just dumb.
Hate the rule, don't hate the ruling. Is the way I come out of this. I think it's atrocious. I think, look, there's a lot of emotion obviously in this game. Now, if you want to flip the ball to a guy in his face, or spike a football right at a guy's face, or stand over the top of the guy, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I get that. A lot of that's silly there. Was this on the outside layer of taunting? Yes, but once again, the way I come down from if he wants to strike that pose and do so while walking backwards and not holding things up, I'm fine with it. But he was walking towards the Steelers sideline at that point, and I think that's what got him the flag. And once again, hate the rule, but don't hate the ruling is where I come down on it. Is it silly overall that we're even having to talk about this? Yes, I agree. But we have to look at this by what the emphasis is right now on this rule. And we've seen a lot of kind of shrug your shoulders kind of taunting so far this year, right?
Yep. 100%. There was one, I forget what game it was, but it was a close game, and there was a taunting call, and it changed the outcome of the game. I mean, I certainly hate the rule. I don't really like the ruling of that play. It just feels like parody. It feels like this is a Hingle McCringleberry, just kind of just weird, just this is so dumb. I mean, I get, if you're throwing a ball in a dude's face, or you're staring over him, or you're saying something overtly to a guy next to you, I mean, I get that's taunting, and if you want to emphasize that stuff, that's fine. But a guy walking 4 yards, still 30 yards away from the sideline and just kind of staring at you for a second, I mean, if that's taunting, man, I don't know. I can't get on board with the rule, and I don't think I can even get on board with the ruling in that situation. I will say this: there's a lot of people who believe that Corrente threw the flag because he kind of hip checked Marsh, and that's not the case. I mean, he did hip check him, but that's not why the flag was thrown. I mean, that contact had nothing to do with the penalty on that play. So a lot of people talking about that. That's irrelevant to the situation at hand.
Right, because he was already reaching there. I don't know what Corrente's thinking, trying to. It's not like Marsh was trying to stumble. Which way are you going? He's trying to go to the outside of him, and I don't know, the whole thing was that whole 5-8 seconds or whatever it was just bizarre. But once again, I don't like it, but I understand, at least in my mind, I understand why he was flagged for taunting.
Yeah, I get it from the heavy emphasis of the rule, but I think Corrente said that he felt like he was taunting, and I think for me to call taunting, there has to be something more tangible and concrete. A guy standing over someone, you can hear him audibly say something to a guy right next to him, some sort of gesture with the football. to me, there has to be something more than it felt like it looked like taunting was basically Corrente's what he said, and I just don't think that's enough to really justify the flag.
And I think because Marsh was walking in a direction he had no business walking in. Be honest with you.
Yeah. No, I get that, but I mean, if we're going down to what direction you're slightly walking in as taunting,
no, he wasn't slightly. I mean, he was walking in that direction.
But he took like forced. He didn't go over. He was still 20 yards away from the Steelers sideline.
I understand that.
To Tomlin. So I mean, if he's on the Bears sideline and takes 3 steps towards the Steelers sideline, is he going to get called for taunting because he's just walking forward? I mean, you got to figure out where these lines are drawn. To me, just walking forward or backward, but still being far away from anybody, to me, it makes it silly.
Well, I mean, it's not like we haven't seen enough of these where questionable taunting calls where players better be on alert, right. when it comes to their emotions and stuff like that. Once again, Alex, I think it's silly that we have to talk about this, but I think looking at it at the whole entire thing from the moment he did the round kick and all like that, to him I think him walking in that direction is what got him the flag.
Right.
Not so much the mean mugging, if you will, but the mean mugging on top of him walking that direction is what got him. I mean, it's silly that we have to talk about it. Yeah, and I think there've been way too many of these. It's unfortunate that you get in a game even as ugly as this one was from the football standpoint in the fourth quarter, that now you have to add in this garbage, right?
And I understand that.
And it was a key play.
A huge play. We both agree the rule is silly, but I'll just make the joke of I am glad the children watching that game are now safer knowing that Marsh was subjected to a penalty for that just blatant display of taunting. Oh, my goodness. I hope there were no children watching that one in the first place.
Man, if I would have told you ahead of this thing that if I would have predicted, you know what, Alex, there's going to be a taunting penalty on Cassius Marsh after he sacks Ben Roethlisberger with 3 minutes to go in this game that's going to really change the complexion of this game, you already think I'm out of my ever-loving mind anyway. You would have had me Baker acted if I said something like that. I mean, how bizarre is it that and then the back storyline, obviously, Cassius Marsh being signed. It was a bit curious anyway that he got signed to the practice squad of the Bears. You're thinking, what? And we talked about this. Is this kind of a gamemanship kind of move here? And then lo and behold, not only did he get signed, he gets elevated to their to their 50 or to their active inactive roster, and then plays meaningful snaps on top of it and gets a key sack late in the game.
Right. I mean, this is why I loathe the preseason win-loss predictions, because you cannot predict Cassius Marsh in Week 9 sacking Ben, getting a taunting call. I mean, it's all just wild and wacky, and that was Week 9 in a nutshell for the NFL. So, I mean, it's something new every single week.
So instead of the Steelers punting from their own 46-yard line, they have a first down. And then they get as you mentioned, they were already, I think, 3 points. I think it was like 23 to 20 at the time there. So, I mean, you want to talk about a turning point in the game? I don't know what way Tyler Wise is going to go with this thing. He's always creative and does a great job on it. But, that was a key turning point in this game for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that Marsh taunt's going to show up somewhere in there. But again, just to clarify, I'm not sure why Marsh was talking so much about the ref making contact with him. It didn't really have an influence on anything. Maybe just the principle of the matter, because it was weird. But there was a lot of weird in this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, it just felt like him trying to find a different excuse there. Yeah, he bumped me, and it was the whole thing was bizarre. I mean, the whole and even his coat that he wore during his press conference was bizarre. I mean, crazy, man.
Yeah. Anyway, so Pittsburgh gets the victory, 29-27. Chris Boswell with a clutch performance, 3 of 3 on field goals, 2 from 50-plus, and the game winner from 40. Credit to the operation. Credit to Kuntz, to Harvin, to Bos for doing their job, making that thing look easy. And Pittsburgh 5-3 on the season, 4 in a row. Chance to go 6-3, and in a very competitive AFC North, a very competitive AFC overall. Got to have these wins, although it was much closer than it should have been. A win is a win.
Or is it?
I mean,
once again, style points don't matter in all this, and we talked about, look, whatever happens here in these three games, the Steelers got to win these 3 games. They beat Cleveland, they beat Chicago. Does the how at all matter in any of this through these 4 games? Because let's be honest here. You look at and people are going to get tired of me harping on this, but the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat right now on both sides of the football is not great. It's 6 on offense and 7 on defense, Alex. And they just played a Bears team that was last in adjusted net yards differential or passing attempt differential in the league there. There's no reason whatsoever that this game, they were without Mack, they were without Ogletree, they were without Eddie Jackson. There's no reason for this game to have been as close as it was, in this. So, you look at the numbers right now, people are going to hate to hear it. I realize this team is 5-3, and kudos to them. But there is nothing outside of this team's record, and I know that's the most important thing. There's nothing outside of this team's record that says this is a Super Bowl team, or not even a team that can win a playoff game, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're good enough to be competitive, but can they really get over the hump here? And I don't know if they can. And you'd like to see a more comfortable win against some teams who aren't very good. Chicago this week, Detroit next week, because the schedule is going to toughen up in a big way after the Lions game next week, and you need to be able to, you had a quality win over Cleveland, and I didn't care how you won that game because Cleveland's a good team, so you just get the win however you can get it. But you want to feel like you're finding some more consistency and figuring stuff out and kind of beating these teams handily, which will give you, theoretically more confidence they can handle some of the tougher teams that are down the road on the schedule.
Going back to what we said about this offense, or really this team in general at the start of the season, how they run the ball, how the offensive line plays, how the defense plays, and then how Roethlisberger plays is how this thing goes, right? And it really is right now how the offensive line in the running game goes, because it feels like, once again, we said this at the top of the show, if they can't run the ball, what do you obviously Watt's playing out of his mind right now, and Cam Hayward is too. Thank God for that. But who else on this defense can you say, whew, man, thank God for X player on the defensive side of football?
Yeah, well, it's good that your studs are playing like studs. That's the most important part. I think Minka played a good game last night, even if the stats don't always show it. But, I hear what you're saying. I mean, there's still work to do, across the board. It's not just one phase. I mean, it's offense, defense, and special teams that can certainly improve.
We both agreed that we thought this defense as a whole would take a step backward from the unit that they had last season, correct?
Yes.
How big is it? To me, it feels like this defense is worse than I thought it than the step that I thought it would be backwards where I sit right now.
I think it's about the same to me. I mean, they've still only allowed 20 points. I mean, in some of those big key metrics, they're doing a good job. To play defense in the NFL is so tough to do, and they're still getting pressure, and takeaways hopefully will continue to come a little bit more than what they have. They're showing some momentum in that direction. So, I mean, again, the personality of this defense has changed. You're seeing less blitzes. You're seeing more zone because of some of the more youthful guys in the secondary. But I think it's about where I thought it would be in that not elite level, but a tier and a half below that level.
I mean, I think this defense, even let's and this is dangerous. Let's assume this team beats the Lions on Sunday at Heinz Field. Okay. And they get to that magical 6-3 that we talked about. Then, how confident are you that this team can at least go 4-4 the rest of the way? With the way both sides of the football are playing right now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they can do it. I don't know how to gauge my confidence level on that because the schedule does get really tough. You're at the Chargers, at the Bengals, hosting Baltimore the next 3 games after that. So, yeah, they can do it. I mean, I don't know how to articulate a confidence level for that, though.
Anyway, they got to get better on both sides of the football moving forward, and they got they got a Detroit team that's coming off of a bye week, and then the Steelers are coming. You want to talk? That's another gripe for another day, and I put it out on Twitter yesterday. How do you end up with that? Right, a team coming off of a bye, playing a team on a short week.
Mm. Yeah, that's a fair point. I guess if there's a team, though, that you'd want to play in that situation, it's the winless Lions. Although you don't want to discount them because
Right. Well, people say, "What are you scared of the Lions?" That's not the point. But I mean, look at how this team played against the Bears. I mean, don't give me that. It's just the Lions.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I'd rather play them than say the Chargers or the Bengals or whoever's up on the schedule after that. But yeah, I for the principle of the matter, regardless of who the opponent is, I mean, yeah, that's a weird scheduling quirk. I'm not sure how that happens.
Okay, for not going well deep into the tape whatsoever, I figure we recap this one good enough here. We got to start getting, so we're going to bypass, I think, some comments. We might have a show on Wednesday here to maybe an hour show to recap what Mike Tomlin said, maybe recap more of our thoughts on what the tape says here. I know initially we said that we probably weren't going to have a Wednesday show, but what do you think, Alex? Because we're going to eat up. We're going to eat up another 10, 20, 15 minutes here with comments alone, unless we save them until Wednesday's show.
Yeah, let's tentatively plan for a show tomorrow, another hour variety, because there's probably more that we need to get to, especially from Tomlin, obviously, on Tuesday. So let's tentatively plan for a Wednesday show.
All right, so let's call it quits right now. No email answers. Keep sending them on. We'll try to address as many emails as we can. And once again, we'll probably have a show on Wednesday as well, too. But we wanted to get something out there with the game being on Monday night and kind of recap it, especially the way things went down there. So within that, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. For $25 for one calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. So until probably Wednesday morning, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.